Okay, we'll start the YouTube stream starting.
Great. We're live on TV.
All right, so welcome to the Recreation Commission meeting of January 26th, 2021. We'll call the meeting to order. Our first item is consideration of minutes from the previous meeting. And I believe we got those on the 22nd. And if everybody's had a chance to review those.
I'll make a motion to accept the meeting minutes from, what was the date?
It was the 12th.
12th.
I'll second.
Okay, so we have a motion from Commissioner Gannon and a second from Commissioner Burns. Any discussion? All right, all in favor? We'll do a roll call so that we'll actually have a roll call. So Commissioner Ruggles. I didn't hear you, Andy. That's an aye. Okay. Burns?
Sorry, I was muted.
That's okay.
Aye.
All right. Commissioner Ames?
Aye.
Gannon?
Aye.
Weber?
Aye.
And I also say aye, so that carries 6-0-0. I didn't miss anybody, right? No. All right, so our next item of business is public input. We do have one member joining us, but unless you have something you want to add in public input, Jason, I don't think we have anybody else calling in.
No, thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, that's correct. There's no one else but Jason.
Thank you. Jason didn't want to say anything. That's the first. Just kidding, Jason. All right. And then we have facility and field requests. So the Boy Scouts, and Andy, I saw that you had replied to the Boy Scouts.
Yeah, I did. I wasn't sure. I'm not sure. I've lost track of whose month everything is. It might have even been my month. So I don't recall. But I responded back. I said we'd discuss it at tonight's meeting. I did say town hall is still closed, so I don't know if it's going to be possible for them to use that as a warming area. As nice as that would be.
Yeah, I mean, right now until we open the hall up, we wouldn't be able to authorize it for any recreational type use. And so they're looking for Sunday from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. for their Klondike Derby and Webelows Alley, practicing winter outdoor skills. So I don't know how you guys, I mean, I think probably what we would need in order to really vote on this, at least I feel, is we would need to meet with them and sort of go over what their protocols would be before we could even say anything. You know, how many people are going to be there? How are they going to ensure social distancing? How are they going to ensure, you know, sanitation of the equipment? I know it's outdoors, but
And Andy, they did list it as up to 50 people. I believe, isn't that the current max still for public events, or is it higher than that now?
I am not sure, actually, to be honest with you. I thought it was 25, but I might be watching the news in mass too much.
Okay, so I'm going to reply back to him again and ask these questions. You know, if he can provide a plan. What was the date again? It's supposed to be
February 21st.
February 21st. Do we have another meeting before then?
We do have another meeting before then.
Okay.
But, you know, it doesn't give them a ton of time for planning, but that's, I think, the Sunday before, the Sunday that's kicking off February vacation, which is kind of an odd day to pick. As well, I guess nobody's really going to be traveling this year, so well, they shouldn't be, at least.
So we need a COVID, basically a social distancing plan, sanitization, et cetera, right?
Right, and then I think we probably need to do something, Steve, maybe similar to what we did with soccer, and maybe present that plan to the the fire chief, health, you know, just sort of run through the gamut and make sure that they're good with it. You don't want to. I mean, granting use of our property is one thing, um, but you know, we're not really going to be experts on all the restrictions that there could be.
Yeah, I agree. We should bring it to the emergency management team for their input.
Steve, when's their next meeting?
We meet every Wednesday at 2 in the afternoon.
And who can they reach out to give that plan to, just so I can give them that
If
information?
they send my one, sure everybody on the emergency management team gets it.
Okay.
And maybe, you know, the sooner they can get it to them, the better. And that way, you know, maybe if they can get it to them the first Wednesday meeting of February, I know tomorrow's not going to probably fly, but if they can get there next Wednesday, possibly, that gives them a week before our meeting, just to sort of get the ducks in a row. And then, you know, Steve, we can probably get some feedback from you guys on what your discussions were and what the expectations should be in order to hold this event safely.
Definitely.
And then the other thing, and Mike's not here, Andy, I would also ask him about filing with the state, because that's supposed to be done annually. So, and then insurance, obviously, but the certification through what used to be the water district, water or Parks and Water or whatever it was. I'll find out where they can get that form and make sure that they're up to date with that and turned in.
What's that form called again, Andy?
Honestly, I forgot. It's been a while since we did it. It was last January.
But it's basically background checks, sort of.
Well, it's it's the youth skills camp certification of background checks, water division, drink. But I think it's changed. It's on a different site now.
Andy Ruggles, I'll send you the link. We have it for baseball. We got to sign up every single year, so I'll shoot the link over to you.
Okay.
Yeah, it's with the state. It moved from one department to another. It used to sit with like wildlife, something crazy.
Yeah,
like
it used
that.
to be with the environmental services. Now it's somewhere else.
I'll shoot you the link, Andy.
Okay, thanks, Steve.
And I'll have asked, like in the past, because usually it depends on how long it takes them to update that list. But usually, if they can just take a picture of the form and a copy of the check that they sent in, just to show that it has been sent, that should be good enough. At least we know it has been filed. Anything else you guys can think of that Andy would want to let these guys know?
Do they have to approve anything with the fire department for their open fires?
Yes.
Okay, so they'll have to talk to.
And I mean, the fire chief will be at the emergency meeting, the emergency management team meeting, correct, Steve?
Correct. He is the emergency management director.
What about bathroom facilities, restrooms?
Well, there is still the porta potty there.
Yeah, as far as sanitizing it, you have to do anything with that?
Yeah, that's a good point. Make sure they have something in their plans to keep that sanitized. I guess my other question, and it wouldn't be for them, is, and I don't think, and maybe we can ask Ryan. I'm assuming that the grass area is okay to withstand traffic at this point. I don't know if, in the cold, if this would actually do more damage to where it's, the state that it's in, or if we want to try and steer them off of the main fields.
I can, I'll reach out to him and find
Okay.
out.
I mean, I would imagine the ground's frozen. You're not really going to do much damage, but. All right. Anything else? All right. So we'll move on. So, and hopefully, Peter, if we can put that on the agenda for our next meeting, and Andy, if you want to invite them to our next meeting, that way, if there is any last minute questions, we can do it right there.
Yep, and our next meeting is, what is it, the second Tuesday of the month?
Yeah.
So it'll be February, where are we?
9th, I believe.
9th, okay.
Yeah, that would have to be the meeting because they want to do it on the 21st. So that would be before our second meeting. So. All right. So let's move on to new business. And since we have Jason here with us, we won't make him sit through the other three. So Jason Brennan is here representing which committee are you representing?
Well, we're talking about a lot of things.
Okay.
Right.
So Jason Brennan from a lot of things.
Right. Bear with me. Can you guys see my screen?
Mm-hmm.
Right. A couple things I wanted to talk about tonight. Number one was the startup of a trail crew that will help out with trail maintenance in town. Number two, wanted to talk about a situation in the state forest that Andy and I will give you some information on. And then number 3 and 4, I got a couple small things at the end. So I got a little presentation. I'm going to whip through it real fast. So Litchfield Trail Crew. Over the past several months, and especially with COVID, a lot of people have been using trails in town. We noticed that citizens were looking for more passive recreational opportunities. We noticed that a lot of people were starting to use trails in town. And if you go by the Litchfield State Forest this summer, you probably noted that there's a lot of cars going down the street and a lot of people are using those trails. A lot of people on social media were talking about trails and we're interested in helping out, making sure that they're maintained. So we came up with the concept of a trail group to help maintain, build, and promote use of trails in Litchfield. Andy Ruggles is on that group. A bunch of Andy Ruggles' buddies are on that group. A guy named Rob Terry is a leader in the group as well. We talked to the several boards and commissions in town. We were originally thinking that this would fit underneath the Conservation Commission, but actually in talking with Londonderry, they have a group called Londonderry Trailways. We decided to keep it separate from the town, almost like the garden club a little bit, because trails run through different types of lands: town land, state land, private land, and conservation land. So it makes it easier to work with multiple different agencies, and we could raise money at some point in time. So kind of set up as a separate organization. We cast an ad out there to see people that were interested in partaking in a trail crew. We got 35 people like within a day to sign up for it. We grouped these people into 3 different buckets essentially based on what they wanted to do. We have a team think tank, which are the folks that are the organizer, like Andy. We have team trail crew, bunch of people that are willing just to help out and maintain trails. And then we got some people that are on team behind the scenes who are people that can like make signs, but are not really willing to go out there and dig dirt and cut down trees or do the maintenance and things like that. So we got a few people that will help out, which is pretty cool. And then we put together a mission statement. And the mission statement of the trail crew is the Litchfield Trail Crew is an independent group of volunteers who are dedicated to working with the town, state, private land managers to help improve existing trails as well as create new trails in Litchfield. And the group is comprised of a bunch of people with diverse interests who work together to improve passive outdoor recreational activities for Litchfield citizens of all ages. At our first meeting a couple of weeks ago, group is up and running. We'll see if it sticks. But really the main thing is to try to promote trails and maintain trails in town because we really don't have any staff to do that. So some of you may heard the first order of business essentially after we got up and running was around the same time that the state came in and closed down a few trails within the Litchfield State Forest, in one of which is a very popular trail. And so we want to talk a little bit about that in our approach to that, and hopefully Andy can ad-lib. But just to give you a little bit of background information, the Litchfield State Forest, if you look at the map, in that location is right there is Town Hall. So in the new center of town exists the Litchfield State Forest. It's 346 acres. It's that big, gigantic green area that you see. In addition to the Litchfield State Forest, which is kind of interesting, is that there are 7 town pieces of property that basically surround the Litchfield State Forest, which also have trails on them. So the green lines that you see going through the map are existing trails within the Litchfield State Forest, as well as trails that are just outside of the Litchfield State Forest, but on town land. That parcel number 8 right there in the middle is Kevin Lynch's property, and he is basically landlocked by everybody else around him. But that's the only piece of private land within that whole area. Albuquerque is right here, going up and down. If you can see, Hillcrest kind of comes down there, and it's a whole 500 plus acres of land out there. Even if you zoom out even more, the Litchfield State Forest and surrounding lands are combined with over 1,000 acres of land in Londonderry, the Musquash Conservation Area, in which they have 20 plus, and I think that's on the low end. I think they probably have 30 plus miles of trails out there. And if you wanted to, you could hike in the Litchfield State Forest, go into the Musquash, come around, and probably do 10 or 15 miles without even crossing your path. It's that expansive out there. You can get lost in the Musquash Conservation Area. So those are the trails that exist. A couple of, maybe last month or so, over the past few months, the state came in and started to do a review of the Litchfield State Forest. And after reviewing some of the trails in the Litchfield State Forest, they decided to close 2 of them down. Number 1 is this Calvin Loop, which is the blue line. That's 0.89 miles, and that's been around for many years. I mean, I go in there all the time, and it's been there as long as I can remember. In addition, they closed down this Twin Bridges Trail, which is definitely a rogue trail, which means a trail that someone came in and just built within the past couple of years. Calvin Loop has been around for a while. Twin Bridges is new. It's rogue. Nobody got permission for it, so they closed that one down. But the bottom line is they closed those two trails down. Those trail closures within the Litchfield State Forest have resulted in a 42% reduction in multi-use recreational trails on this piece of property. So it's a big hit. So the Calvin Loop, which is kind of interesting, which we're focusing on, and the long and the short of it is we're looking to petition the state to reopen Calvin Loop. And we're not focusing on the other trail because it was rogue, it goes through wetlands, and it probably should not be reopened. When they cut down Calvin Loop, which is kind of interesting, the state came in and floors me that they cut down 152 trees along Calvin Loop just to close that trail off so that people won't walk on it. A lot of the trees were smaller, but a lot of the trees were bigger as well. 5-inch, hardwood trees, big gigantic pine trees. They just came through and wiped the thing out. 152 trees just on one of the trails that they cut down. And they gated it off and put up signs and things like that to deter people from going in there. The reason that the state closed the Calvin Loop and the other trail is and this is according to a conversation that one of the folks on the trail crew had with the state, is that they were buckling down on illegal trail building. They view Calvin Loop as an illegal trail and this other trail, the Rogue Trail, as an illegal trail, which it is. They said that there are improper wetlands crossings and there is a small little bridge in this area. They said that that trail has an impact to wildlife and there are signs up there that shouldn't be up there. And so that's the reason why they closed those. Those are the main reasons we believe why they closed those trails down. Our focus again is the Calvin Loop, to petition the state to open up the Calvin Loop. And our contention is the Calvin Loop has been there for years. And they said last night at the Board of Selectmen meeting that people have been snowmobiling on that trail or in that area for many years. The map that you see on the screen right here is a mapping tool that shows high impact areas and areas where you do not want to build trails based on state-based information. The long and the short of it is, when you see on the map, is these areas that are dark brown or light brown or, these dark brown areas and these red areas, the state does not want you building trails in those areas. And if you take a look at the Calvin Loop kind of bisects two, highly sensitive areas, which are just essentially wetlands, and then comes through areas that are less highly sensitive, and then clips a little bit down here where there's one little bridge crossing and connects back up. So I think the state is contending that not only are these illegal trails, but they're impacting highly sensitive areas. Give you a little bit of a tour for people that have not been on the Calvin Loop. Was an awesome trail. Going in, this is essentially what it looks like. You can kind of see the blue dots of where we're at. At that highly sensitive area, that's what the trail looks like. It's just an upland trail that's well-defined, been there for years, that are just going through the woods. A great 1-mile walk. That's where the bridge was, and the state came and ripped the logs out and tossed them around. There you go. So if you want to build, we're winding down here, if you want to build a trail on state land, you have to get what they call a special use permit. And with this special use permit, if you focus on the yellow, it's required for any special use, including trail maintenance or cutting of vegetation for scenic views. In addition, the same permit deals with birthday parties, which is kind of unusual. But the long and the short of it is, if we want to build a trail on state land, you have to go through a special use permit and go through a process to either get it approved or denied. And what we're looking to do is we're looking to file for a special use permit to see if the state will consider letting us reopen the Calvin Loop. We're thinking, and we want to work with the state to ensure that no sensitive areas are encroached. If they let us bring the trail back to life, we'd make sure that we bring it up to code, that we build a proper bridge, that proper signage is in there, and that we put together a group of people, the trail crew, to help maintain and police the system, or police the trails and maintain them going forward. And what we're looking from the Recreation Commission, Conservation, and the Board of Selectmen is just support in doing this, so that when we put a permit together, if it's applicable, if you even really want to get involved, we're thinking of having letters of support from various different town groups to include in the petition to the state, so that we can make sure, or that we can put our best foot forward to see if we can get this trail open. We don't want to just do it on our own ourselves as a trail group. We're trying to gather up some interest from other folks and then submit a permit application for consideration. And then Andy, if you just don't mind taking it from here.
Yeah, Jason covered it very thoroughly. This trail crew is comprised of, like Jason said, it's a lot of Litchfield residents that are, they have families and little kids. The Calvin's Loop was one of the best trails for bringing small kids and introducing them to the sport and getting them off from Fortnite to play, to play in the woods. And I would take the time and teach my kids about certain leaves that you'd see out there. And it's just, it totally closes off an entire portion of the forest that's just beautiful. I understand, the state believes that it was constructed rogue, but town officials last night confirmed that single trail has been there for upwards of 50 years. I mean, it's kind of mind-boggling to me that there wasn't at least a little dialogue prior to shutting it down. But it's the state land; they can do whatever they want. But the biggest thing here is that we want to try to move forward with this and get it reopened. And if we can, it's possible they say no. But we figure with as much support as we can get from the town, we'd have a better chance with doing that. So, we're just looking for support.
Any questions?
What do you think your time frame is as far as getting the petition and when you'd be able to meet with them?
We're trying to find that out. We've contacted the state. It hasn't been a smooth process getting response. Rob Terry, another gentleman that's involved with this trail crew, he's reached out and left messages, and he's trying to get a call back just to see if we can go through the process. The sooner the better. I mean, if we can get something for the spring, obviously we try to do it then, or maybe even this winter, so. I mean, the permit itself isn't really involved. It's funny. It's like Jason explained it last night. It's like something you'd fill out for a birthday party at, a state park. So it's just a matter of filling in the information and then figuring out, maybe they want us to build a bridge across that one sensitive area. It's literally, it's a 4-foot wide, arguably an intermittent stream that was literally dry all summer. Granted, we were in a drought, but I've only seen water in it a few times. But on the flip side, that stream crossing should have a better bridge. It's something that we wanted to do, but just talking amongst friends, but we never did it because it is state land and we didn't know what to do to get that approved. So now we're just trying to put all the pieces together to figure it out.
So I guess besides the sensitive area and the wetland, is there any other reason the state gave that we would need to consider, such as, it kind of abuts some residential area? Was there any issue with the landowners right out by that trail?
So allegedly, there's a list of 10 reasons. Not allegedly. Allegedly, because I haven't seen it. But from what I've heard, it's environmentally sensitive areas. Certain species were being impacted. I don't understand how they'd be more impacted than the other trail that meanders through there. I don't know what the other 8 reasons are. I honestly, I haven't seen the letter. So one of the things was that the state doesn't allow them to you can't name a trail after a person. So Calvin Loop was not something they would allow. I mean, that was one of the reasons. I mean, so
Well, now you can call it Kelvin Loop and name it after the
or
Kelvin
just
Loop, right?
loop trail, you know.
Absolute zero.
Yeah.
So that's what we have, and I think what the timing would be would hopefully in February we can put together the permit, and hopefully we can get. Last night we were successful in getting support from the Board of Selectmen. We're hoping that we can get support from this board and support from the Conservation Commission, which we're talking to them next week. We just include these letters in with the permit, and I think it will just provide, maybe a more unified approach.
I guess one other question I would have is, and I don't know if this is part of their consideration, but with that addition, so adding the Calvin Loop to what the state considers to be the authorized trails, do we need to have more parking or something as far as, because now you're going to, I'm just thinking capacity. They might be looking at it saying, well, we can only park 6 cars, so you can only have so many feet of trail. I don't know can we look at what we're doing for people that need to park and get in there?
Good question. That was not one of the 8 or 10 reasons why they shut the trail down. That Calvin Loop has been there for years. There are at least three entrances to Litchfield State Forest where there are parking. There's down there where a lot of people park. There's up off of Aldridge Street. You can get to it from Tanager on using the Litchfield State Forest Trail, and some people park in Town Hall down here, and you can even enter in from Hillcrest. But Andy, to answer your question directly, the parking never came up in one of the reasons why it was closed. So it's up to you, Andy Collins, on how you want to handle this, and we're just throwing it out there.
Just for so last night the Board of Selectmen just made a motion to support the group in their mission essentially, and agreed to write a letter showing their support. And that was the extent of it. I think that's all we, are looking for at this point. I obviously will be abstaining from the vote because I'm involved with the trail crew. But that's what we're looking for.
I mean, I don't think you need to abstain from it because it's not like it's a personal gain for you. But I mean, I would definitely think that make a motion. I mean, I'll make a motion now to support the Litchfield Trail Group and their mission to increase recreational opportunities here in the town.
I'll second.
Yes. All right, so we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All right, we shall do a roll call vote then. So, Mr. Ruggles, you want to abstain?
Yeah, I will abstain. I just think I should.
Okay. Mr. Burns?
I guess.
Mr. Ames?
Aye.
Mr. Gannon?
Aye.
Mr. Weber?
Aye.
And I will also say aye, so the motion carries 5-0-1. And then, I mean, I would feel comfortable, Andy, I don't know if you want to put the letter together, if you feel that that's not really a good idea being in position, but you'd probably know better than us what
Yeah, I'll draft something up and send it to the group for approval. Okay. And, then we can all sign it if everybody's okay with it.
Sounds like a plan.
It works for me.
With the Conservation Committee next?
That is next week.
Next Thursday night.
And Chairman Collins, I had two quick other things that will
Okay.
hopefully last less than 2 minutes. Number one, what about when we start getting into warmer weather? What do you guys think about cleaning up with a brush hog the area in front of the tennis courts? Just throwing it out there.
Well, you mean, I mean, it usually is done once a year or so, but you mean you're talking about cleaning it up and then maintaining it and keeping it trimmed, or?
Yeah, well, so you have a grass area. If you look at the screen, you have a grass area that's there right now that maybe covers, I'm guessing, 25% of it. But a lot of this stuff in here, in front of the tennis courts, has become overgrown. In the past, I believe this was occasionally cut just to clean it up a little bit. And I was wondering if one of the beautification projects that maybe we want to tackle this year might be just to take a brush hog and just clean this out and maybe brush hog it a couple of times a year just to open it up and maybe put a picnic table or two there. Don't have to discuss it now, but just throwing it out there for maybe a project for this summer.
That would be nice.
Could ask the highway department to use the hauling machine and get in there and do a good cutting the first time.
I mean, is that something we want to vote on, or I mean, do we?
I think we can look at it, talk to Kevin, and figure something out. I mean, it really from year to year it depends, but for the last 2 years it hasn't been cleaned out quite as much. But yeah, I think once we cut it down, it'll be easier to maintain it. And not only just for the picnic tables and things, but we all know what happens when there's visibility. If you clear, it's clearly visible from the street, the chance of vandalism and other things happening drops quickly. So
Now that area is being maintained by the town, right? That's not, I don't believe that's part of the contracted service.
the grass area is part of the service, but not the rough area. It's just along the road is part of our contract.
The town takes care of the sidewalks and the grass around the sidewalk. So we could always ask the highway department to get in there with the big machine and cut down a little bit closer, so that if the beautification team does go in there, it's an easier task for them.
And completely up to you guys. And we sold some more calendars this year. We got a few bucks. Maybe we can, if it fits, maybe we could throw a couple picnic tables down there right on top of maybe there's a good spot for them. I don't know. Completely up to you, but just brainstorming ideas.
Mm-hmm.
Steve wants to dig more holes.
I was going to ask, are we going to put up another fence? We need more fences.
No more fencing. And then the second thing is that I want to talk about, maybe next month. I believe that Parker Park, which is at the end of Pinecrest, is under the direction of the Recreation Commission. Can't confirm this, but Joan from the Conservation Commission says it is. Steve did some research, and Steve Gannon, and it might be. I don't know exactly who it falls under, but the long and the short of it is that the town of Litchfield was given $17,000 by the state of New Hampshire about 20 years ago to build a bridge across the brook at Parker Park. And we want to use that money and get a bridge built across Parker Park, across the stream over there, hopefully a covered bridge, so that we can expand the little trail network there. And that wouldn't be a trail that would be used by mountain bikers or anything like that. It would just be a nice little nature walk. That money exists at the town right now and is sitting in an account that is not being used. And so we're trying to just figure out who the proper board or commission is to, start planning for that, or seeing if it's a good idea.
Now, if I remember correctly, because I was thinking back after you mentioned it, we had voted, and it probably was 7 or 8 years ago, and Kevin Lynch is the one that brought it to us. And I believe it was a project through the high school, and I think they had earmarked that money, and they were going to build a covered bridge. I don't know what ever happened with that. Kevin Lynch might know a little bit more, but I know that it was proposed and approved. It was probably maybe closer to 10 years ago, but it never came through. Never came to fruition.
So I think what we have to do, Andy, is just figure out, and maybe this is a Steve Weber question, is who manages this land? And once we find that out, we'll go in there and just kind of drop a sketch and bring it to you and then to whomever, and you guys can collaborate and figure out if this is good or not good. And if it's good, we can see if we can get a group of people to bang some nails.
Jay, how big is the span there?
That's a very good question. If you've ever gone down there, I think the smallest span would probably be about 6 to 8 feet. But if you put it into maybe a safer spot, it might be 10 feet. It's certainly not like 20 feet or anything like that.
I'm just trying to, because I know there's like a trolley abutment there, and I wasn't sure if that's where you meant it was going to go, or.
It would be more, Andy, when you come down the trail and you kind of go in and you're walking along this the brook.
And then there's
inside, it would be within probably the first 100 yards from when you actually go onto the trail.
Okay.
Yeah. The town really doesn't own. You know when you walk in the trail and then you get up onto the old trolley track?
Yeah.
By that point, you're not on town land anymore.
Oh.
So I'll see that's an action item to work with Troy to see if we can find out who actually is the governing body of the land. I too believe it is REC, but I'll find out and report back to everyone.
Yeah, I had an email conversation with Troy the other day, Steve, and so it's fresh on his mind. He knows what's going on. It definitely is not conservation. Originally, it was earmarked, of all things, to be a pool. The people who owned the land wanted to have a pool put down there, have the water dredged to put a wading pool, and recreation. They wanted a playground. And originally, that's where the fishing derby used to be held. But then when 3A came in and the roads got too busy, they moved it to another location. So it was never, I imagine it'll probably go under jurisdiction of recreation, but right now it is truly, it's been owned by the town, managed by the town.
Okay, great. I'll check with them tomorrow. Thanks, Steve.
Thank you for your time.
Thanks, Jason.
Yep.
Thanks, Jason.
Thanks, Jay.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jay.
All right, so moving to the next new business, Recreation Commission member recruitment. So what we are going to be looking for, assuming that Andy and Chris pass muster and get put on and moved on to full committee or commission members, we don't have any alternates at this point, so we do need to recruit. I believe we can have up to 4 alternates. So, I mean, I would just, this commission will work best if it's represented by different groups. Basketball, it seems to have gone through cycles at one point when, with John and Mike and myself, and, it was heavily represented by basketball. And now there's nobody on basketball that I know. I mean, none of you guys are involved with Litchfield basketball at this point, correct?
No.
And then, it got heavily into Litchfield girls softball and then baseball. So it sort of goes heavy into those groups. I mean, it's best if we have somebody from each group, number one, for communication, so that, I'm sure baseball is well aware of everything that's going on the commission. and things they need to do just because of the representation you guys have here. Where basketball might not know, and we might not know what's going on with basketball because there's nobody here to tell us this. Um, I think we really should talk to pickleball and get somebody from pickleball to be a representative. They're one of our main users of Talent Hall when it's open. And obviously it would need to be a town resident, but I think it would be good to have them on the board or on the commission.
Hey, Andy, just real quick, I got an email back from Jeff Town. He's the Boy Scouts. He may be calling in. I guess he went to town hall tonight to come join the meeting, but he didn't realize it was remote.
Okay.
So he's going to try to get on because he wants to try to clear a couple things up prior to the next meeting. So
Okay. We can reopen that. That's fine. But anything else? I know on recruitment, any ideas, any thoughts?
what happened to the Mike Murray gentleman that?
I'm not. I think you scared him off.
Okay.
I can reach out to him if you want. I do have his contact information. And I know he's heavy into basketball
Okay, good.
at a young age.
So Andy, I believe Colleen submitted her resignation. I don't know if she submitted to the board. Mr. Buxton hasn't been here at all. So that means what I would propose is that we move Mr. Ruggles and Mr. Burns to full-time members, which would leave us with 4 alternate openings.
Right. And at this point, moving them into those spots is going to be, it's kind of a moot point because both of those seats are up March of 2021. So they're going to have to go in for they're going to have to re-up anyway. They're going to have, so even if we move them over to the full-time members right now, we would have to present them to retake those seats again in March.
Okay.
And we haven't, and Keith is still officially on, we haven't, the process has not been completed for that. So, my thought is we're just going to put Andy and Chris in for those 2 seats for March. And now, Steve, normally those are done the week after the first Board of Selectmen meeting after the election, correct?
That is correct. We usually see him in March.
Oh, there's Jeff now.
Good evening.
Hi, Jeff. Sorry for the communication problems there.
Yep. Well, I'm glad we connected.
Absolutely.
So we will go back to, we'll take a break from new business, go back to our facility and field requests. And Jeff, if you could just state your name and who you're here representing.
Yep, my name is Jeff Town. I'm representing the Boy Scouts in town, the Boy Scout Troop 11 and the Cub Scout Pack 11 here in Litchfield. We're sponsored by the Litchfield Community Church down by the old fire station. And I'm here to request use of Roy Memorial Park on February 21st for an outdoor event for both the troop and the pack. That's something that we normally have for the district, which covers Salem, Wyndham, out to Wilton and Lineborough, and all the towns get together and practice their winter camping and outdoor skills. But that event has been canceled. They don't want 200 kids getting together for the day. So we're trying to do a more scaled down event for the Scouts here in town.
All right. I don't know how much you have read from what Andy had sent you in our earlier discussion. I guess our biggest hurdle obviously is safety with COVID-19.
Right.
And so similar to what we did with soccer when they wanted to run a tournament back at the end of October, we have an emergency management team in Litchfield that basically that this information would need to go through, so we would know exactly what protocols would need to put in place, what safeguards would need to be in place in order for this event to occur and be okay to be to take place.
Right. So we do have protocols that are defined by the Boy Scout Council for New Hampshire, and I've got all those documents that I can send along that define what all the safety protocols and things that are required by the scouts for masking, social distancing, lots of different things.
Okay. Does it cover like sanitizing shared equipment, restroom? You'd only have, right now you have access to the porta potty. There wouldn't be access to town hall at this point.
Right. I don't know if that guidance, I don't remember seeing something in there about sanitizing the porta potties or restrooms. It might be there. But if there's something in particular that you're looking for or some guidelines that you'd like us to follow, we can certainly do that. If it's not there, we can certainly make something up and see if it will be adequate if there is no defined protocol.
Yeah, I mean, it's something that the emergency management team would probably know better than we would what to expect. I know Kevin Brown back in the summer did something similar for Litchfield girls softball, correct? For use of the restrooms for a tournament and
Yeah.
protocols for how often it was sanitized and things of that nature. So you might have a little more information on that, and you could probably piggyback off of that.
Okay, if you don't have that information that he had provided for that event, I can try to find him.
I'm sure it's somewhere that he presented to us, but I don't know where it is off the top of my head.
Okay.
We were hoping we'd never have to deal with it ever again.
Yeah. Yeah, amen. Yeah. So yeah, I can certainly look. It may be addressed in the council information. If not,
Okay.
Yeah, we can work something up.
But I guess Steve Weber would be able to connect you with who you need to talk to on the emergency management team, and the fire chief is the one that heads that up. And basically, you can meet with them. They would give you the information you need. If there's any other protocols or processes you need to put in place, they'd give us their recommendation as to whether the event can be held safely or should be held safely. And then we can go from there. We really wouldn't want to make a decision without their blessing on it.
Okay. And they meet every Wednesday, and then you guys meet again February 9th.
Correct.
I'm really hoping we'd be able to do something before February 9th, so that we can, make alternative plans if we have to. We don't want to get all the way down the road on the planning and then, find out middle of February that we can't do something.
Yeah, I understand that. I mean, we wouldn't be able to do anything outside of a meeting. We can't act outside of a meeting. I mean, not that I can make any promises or we can make any promises, but I mean, if the emergency management team gives it a thumbs up, I can't see us coming up with a reason to not say yes. There's definitely no conflicts with any other groups of the facility. We would really just be looking for their information and their feedback on it to make sure that we can make that decision safely, and you guys can hold the event safely.
Could we approve that now pending the input from the emergency management team? So I don't see many other reasons, like I said, that we deny it at this point. I'm sure the scouts protocols are really solid, so I don't have many concerns about that. So,
right, but I don't think that they're gonna. Steve, correct me if I'm wrong, but they're not going to approve it. They're just going to give us a recommendation.
Give a recommendation based off the whole emergency management team on what direction we feel is appropriate.
So it's not like, oh, if they approve it, we're good. It's not really an approval. It's more of a recommendation for us to make the approval.
But I think what Peter was going with it, if it gets approval from the emergency management, do we want to make a motion now to also approve? that where you were heading, Peter?
Yeah, exactly. Yep. Just to remove a step.
Subject to a positive recommendation from the emergency management group. Yeah.
Yep.
Be great.
I would second that motion.
Yes, Steve Weber, is there any reason that would put the emergency management team in an awkward spot, or do you think they'd be fine?
I don't feel so. I think they'll be fine with it because no matter what, they're going to give what they think is a best recommendation for the safety and healthy of the community. So I don't think it's going to push them in either direction.
We'd have to put a couple of stipulations in place, though. So it would have to be the go ahead or the I don't know how you'd want to word it. The authorization of the emergency management team, but would also need the state background check form to be filed with the state and a certificate of insurance.
All right, I can certainly get the certificate of insurance. I'm not sure what state background check form is required.
I sent a link to it, Jeff. It's the youth skills camp. I assume the Boy Scouts have some sort of equivalent, if not that. I mean, do we need specifically that, or?
Yeah, so basically this form is just saying that your organization, whatever it is, has a criminal background check policy that is being adhered to. It's not saying that you have to go through the state for the criminal background check. It's just saying that you do have a process to make sure, and I'm sure the Boy Scouts do, but it's
Yes,
something that has
very
to be filed with the state. Yeah, it's something that has to be filed with the state every year to be authorized to have a youth group of activities to be held, and we're not allowed to authorize use of a facility for any youth group that does not.
Jeff, it's a very simple form for youth sports. I mean, if you have to fill in maybe 10 fields, and I think there might be a check for $25 you give to the state.
Right.
Okay. Yeah, I'm looking in my email. I don't see the link to that form.
Hold on, I'll resend it to you, Jeff.
Okay, that would be great.
And then it's good for a year, and you'd be able to use any of the town property when it's open again.
Right. And the big thing with the form, Jeff, with that form is I believe you can put multiple towns in that. So you'd want to put any towns that you would be doing things in. I know there are a lot of soccer camps, for instance, that operate in 7 or 8 towns, and they list every single town in that one form.
Okay.
So it's
yeah, that may be something that the Scout Council has already filed with the state, and the individual units don't.
Right. It would have to be filed specifically with the town of Litchfield being named as an authorized town, as a town that you can operate in.
Okay. All right, I will definitely take care of that. If you can send me that link, that would be great. That would go back to you or to town hall?
No, it goes right to the state.
To the state, okay.
Yeah, and Andy, you mentioned maybe taking just a picture of the form and the check that you're sending in, or if the state already has it, then just their approval.
Yeah, just in case if you want to just provide proof that you sent it in, just a copy of the form, just because the state might not post it. They're usually pretty good, but I don't know with COVID,
right,
moving people around, they have different priorities right at the moment.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
I mean, so we have a motion and a second, and so we're kind of in the discussion phase. So, I guess my only concern with sort of doing it this way is there's a lot of things in the air. the three different things. You know, the emergency management team, the form and the insurance are kind of easy. They're done or they're not done. But I guess my other concern would be, you know, at what stage are we at with the state? If, you know, we mentioned what's the maximum size group that, you know, is 50 the capacity. What if the governor comes out and says you can't have any group gatherings of 25 or more, or 10 or more? You know, I would.
Yeah, if that happens, then, you know, we would have to, if the size of our event is too big, we just have to cancel it.
Yeah, you listed a couple of the number of attendance, cleaning policy, if they're going to use talent hall.
Well, they wouldn't be able to use talent hall. It would be the cleaning policy for the porta potty.
For the porta potty, okay, so there'll be no warming station. Use of having a fire on town property.
Oh, that's right. That's
Then there was one more.
Certificate of insurance,
Certificate of
background check
insurance.
form.
Well, I mean, I don't know how the rest
Yeah.
of you guys feel. I think it might be a little easier if Jeff can meet with the emergency management team next Wednesday, and we just have a special meeting next Thursday.
I'm fine with that. Yeah, it'd be 10 minutes, knock it out.
And that way, it's not trying to, you know, cross every T and dot every I before we even know what really is coming in for it. And that way, Jeff, it's just one more day that you have to wait. So it would be what, the
What?
February 4th?
Yeah. So if we wait till next Thursday. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, because I mean, you wouldn't be able to meet with the emergency management team till the fifth, till the third anyway.
Yeah. They meet every other Wednesday.
Wednesday, but it'll be tough to get on the docket tomorrow.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. It's a very short notice. Yeah. Okay. All right. We can work towards that. That would be on the 3rd.
And this is just a 1 day 9 to 5 event. It's people aren't sleeping over. You'll be setting up tents, whatever, practicing the survival skills, but it won't be an overnight like in the
No.
past.
That's correct. Yeah.
And you're not going to be driving stakes into the ground or anything out there, right? For tents and things, or?
I don't know if they'd be putting any stakes in the ground or just, you know, putting a rope around trees to mark for, you know, compass orienteering course. We could tie stuff to the fences if we need to. Normally, we'd put a stake in the ground, just a wooden stake with a sign on it. But we could avoid that if necessary.
I'm just thinking of the sprinkler systems, and I was just thinking, like, I didn't know if you were setting tents up and you would be putting stakes in around the tent.
And certainly not on the fields.
Okay.
It'd be out in the woods.
That's what.
Oh, in the woods, that's not it. So we don't irrigate the woods.
Yeah. That would be a challenge.
Yeah.
Okay, and the question about fires, that would be handled by the emergency management team or the fire chief?
The fire chief, yeah.
Fire chief, who is emergency management director, so.
That's convenient. Okay. All right. Yeah, and if that's an issue, we can, you know, as long as we know in advance, we can plan around it. I mean, that's one of the things that we always do. But you know, if we can't do that one piece, then we'll figure something else out. But preferably we'd be able to do it.
Yeah, and Chief Frakesel and Deputy Chief Nichols are both there at that meeting, so you'll get both of them.
Okay, perfect.
All right. Well, thank you, Jeff.
All right, so we'll see you a week from Thursday at the same time. Does this same link work, or is there a different link for the meeting?
It'll be different. We'll have to sort of figure that out as far as time, and we'll coordinate that.
Okay.
Make sure that it's available, and maybe we'll have to meet in person and just do it real quick. But
Okay, yeah, you just let me know what the logistics for that will be. I will plan to be there.
all right.
All right.
All right.
Peter withdraw his motion.
I will withdraw my motion and we'll do it on next Thursday. And we'll have to notice a special meeting. So just a note of that.
Yeah,
Okay.
Actually, why don't we make it might be easier to have, because it's a special meeting, and I don't want John to have to sit there and set this whole thing up for a 10-minute meeting. And I mean, we can hold this down at Dara, couldn't we, Steve?
Definitely.
So why don't we plan on how early can people get there next Thursday? We don't want to be out there too much in the dark.
4:30 for me.
I work from home, so whenever.
We all know my status.
You know, Steve, it's wide open.
You know, I can make it anytime. I can switch things around.
So next Thursday is.
I should be able to swing down there pretty much any time too, as well, just with a little bit of notice.
So we want to say 4:30 on the 4th.
That's fine.
That gives us plenty of daylight.
For me.
Okay. And I'll try to get with the emergency management team for the 3rd.
All right, so that sounds good.
Yep. All right. That's great. Anything else you need from me?
No, I think we're good.
All right. In that case, I will drop off and plan to see you next Thursday. Thanks.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good evening.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
All right, so we talked about recruitment. We're back on new business. Timeline for the election of officers. I know in our bylaws it has it in as May. I believe it's the second meeting in May. So I guess who has the latest copy? Because I think the copy I have is old of the bylaws. Let me just double check here.
There should be one up on the page, litchfieldrec.com.
That's a good spot to look for it.
And then it'll be under About and Bylaws. And this is as of April 23rd, 2019. Let's see what it says. Did you find it?
Yeah. Revision as of April 23rd, 2019. So we've revised it since then, though, right?
The only revision that would have been made is the latest one. I don't know if I put that in the. Let's see if it's there. Yeah, I don't know if I updated the one about having requirement to attend the meetings.
So
Oh yeah, it's up there. It's up there.
yeah. So Article 5 of Officers, Section 1, Election of Officers, it states annually at the first regular May meeting, the members of the Recreation Commission shall elect from its membership a chair, vice chair, and secretary. I would propose to write or to amend that and make that annually at the first regular meeting in February. The members of the Recreation Commission shall elect from, well, in its first regular meeting of February to nominate people for the position of officers, and then the second meeting of February to elect officers for membership as chair, vice chair, and secretary.
Is there any reason why you want to go with February, just because we've already missed January?
Well, I want to go with February because what that would do is if we do it in the second meeting of February,
Oh, it's after the elected.
it's we would be able to present that to the Board of Selectmen, and they would be able to get sworn in and start serving in March. In other words, those positions.
We don't want to do it though after the appointments, Andy. Like the first meeting in April, because you'll appoint new people every March, correct? Because people are going to, depending on the date.
Oh, that's right, because we really couldn't elect somebody that wasn't appointed at that point.
Yeah,
Correct.
you might want to do it in the first meeting, the first Tuesday of April.
Yeah, so
Or you could pick the fourth Tuesday of March, because always falls, or is it the second Tuesday of the month?
Or just say our second meeting of March.
Correct.
well, I was kind of thinking what Steve was saying there, to have it later after the new members were sworn in. So number one, let them have a vote. But I think our thinking in May was to give them, we could potentially have brand new members and give them a couple meetings to get acclimated, and then we have 2 meetings and then look to it in May. So I think maybe a little bit in April earlier is fine, but I think I still kind of like the logic of what we had before.
Right.
I think it makes it.
Well, I think the only issue we have though is if somebody's membership is up, like Colleen was up on the 20, in March, so her seat is gone. But so what do we do for a vice chair in those 2 months? So in other words, if we're sort of creating this gap that causes an issue.
I see. Yeah.
We'd have new members coming in, but we wouldn't have, a vice chair, or possibly 2 or 3 of the positions not there. We would have to put somebody in that position for a month or 2. I mean, it's not, something we
You
can't
can
do.
only appoint for the duration of the term. If we chose, we could appoint someone as vice chair and they'd act until the next time we do elections.
Okay. And but I mean, we don't really have a process in our bylaws for that, do we? Was that something we would have to add in there?
I'm not sure if you'd have to add it. Is there anything in there about electing chair and vice chair?
Yes.
Is there any other verbiage after it? I haven't heard them in a while.
Yeah, want me to share? So this is it right here. And we also have something in here about having a director of recreation. So, there's nothing as far as replacing, and maybe this is something that we need to look at and maybe formally come up with a change to the bylaw to, so when Colleen does, resign, how do we fill her position? Is it, because technically we vote on it and then it gets approved by the Board of Selectmen. Oh, no. You guys don't need to approve our officers, correct?
No, we do not approve them. We only approve the appointments.
How do you guys work it on the Selectmen?
We appoint. Like
And is that
when Mr. Pizziero just stepped down because he moved out of town, we appointed Ms. Queenan for the rest of his term up until March, and then his term becomes available for 2 years.
Right, but that's something that we would have to go through you guys. We couldn't just appoint somebody, but I'm talking about as far as officers. So if the vice chair of this selectman, if he, what, was he a vice chair or?
No, he wasn't. So what would happen is, let's just say he was the vice chair, we would make motions for a new vice chair.
Okay. All right, so I'll rethink this and maybe shoot something to you guys and maybe read it at the next meeting. So I guess at this point, what we really should do, because I was afraid, luckily, I guess COVID struck and shut down our basketball season for 2 weeks, or else I wouldn't have been here tonight. But really, it's supposed to fall to the vice chair to fill that, to facilitate the meeting. So we do really need a vice chair. I don't know if any of you, and I think Steve and Peter would be the only two that could do it at this point, because we couldn't have an alternate as a vice chair, if I'm correct.
Peter, you hold a secretary at this point, right? Or
Correct.
Yes.
Yep.
okay.
What
But
about
you-
Mike? Mike could be an option too, right?
And Mike.
Mike, yeah. Want to just nominate him? We can put him in.
He's not here, so he can't say no.
Well, Keith theoretically could be too, right?
Yes. So, I mean, and this would just be until we actually elect new officers. But does anybody have a desire to, if I'm not here, to be able to facilitate the meetings, or?
I mean, I think in that regard, I'm happy to do that, and it kind of falls to me, I think, in that order now anyway.
Yes.
So I don't think there's anything need to do there. So
Right.
Do a bang up job too.
We just gotta hope that, just gotta hope that it's not both of us are missing at that point too. But I don't think I'll be missing any other meetings, so we should be good on that. All right. So old business, the field maintenance update.
Yeah, I'm going to keep this short. I talked to Natticook. They forward me all of their like their 2020 pesticide usage sheet. It has all their list of pest chemicals and fertilizers they used. Their 2021 pesticide license and their 2019 and 2020 soil reports, just for our records. I want to keep them somewhere safe, just because I know that we need to have them in case we're ever audited by the state for this stuff. So my only question was where we should store this information.
I would say forward it to Troy.
Yeah, I mean, Troy would maybe give it to Troy for a hard copy, but I think we really need to keep, with Google Drive, it's secure since it's on the town domain. We probably should create a shared folder in there so we can access it with that information. So just so we have it if needed. Because you think about it, 2 or 3 of us leave next year, and 2 or 3 of us leave the following year, and if they're looking for stuff from 2021, it just needs to be accessible for everybody coming in.
Okay.
How about let's scan it and we'll put it up on the Google Drive, and we'll also give the hard copy to Troy.
I have PDFs of everything, so
Oh, you already do?
yeah, I can upload it right up there.
Along those lines too, I believe our council is supposed to create a contract for him to sign.
Yeah.
Correct. Troy has reached out to legal counsel and they're working on it.
Okay, perfect.
Other than that, I did talk with him today. He went over all the numbers with everything. It all makes kind of sense. It's kind of gibberish to me. He said, obviously if there's any questions, feel free to reach out. So. That's all.
All right. Other business.
So if
Oh,
we
one
don't
thing I
get
will
more
mention
snow
is-
this year, we're gonna have another drought in the fields.
Yeah. Well, you know why? Because there's no Winterfest. I always used to give Keith a hard time because would be like a week or two ahead of Winterfest, and there'd be no snow on the ground. And wouldn't you know it, within a week before Winterfest, we get clobbered, and it'd be like 3 feet of snow on the ground. So the committee that I talked about at the last meeting, I sort of, well, I don't know if I dropped the ball or life happened and things got out of control. So we haven't met yet. I know I did contact Steve and Andy. The three of us will connect before the next meeting and get some things together for at least the start of what we need to do to get ready for reopening when that does occur, and how we'll phase that in. Any other business anyone has?
Nope.
All right, I will make a motion to adjourn.
I will second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. We'll do the roll call vote. Mr. Ames,
Aye.
Mr. Gannon,
Aye.
Mr. Ruggles,
Aye.
Mr. Weber,
Aye.
Mr. Burns. That was an aye.
No sound.
And I'll say aye. So it carries.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. So it carries 6-0-0. We're adjourned. All right. Thanks, guys.